Thank you very much for joining us for the second Global Public Relations Summit. As I suspect many of you know, this is an idea that took 4 or 5 years to come to fruition. One of the things that I think the advertising industry has always done slightly better than the public relations industry, and those of you who know me will know that I don't think that's a long list, but one of the things that the advertising industry has always done better, it seems to me, is celebrating itself. When we started the Sabre Awards a little over 20 years ago, there was really nothing equivalent for the public relations industry. And as a chance for PR people to gain some validation, to measure their work against others, and to finally be able to explain to their parents what it is that they did for a living, was incredibly valuable and became a mainstay of our business. We had for some time looked at Cannes with a little bit of envy and thought that there was an opportunity for an event that celebrated public relations in the same way that Cannes 4 or 5 years ago was celebrating advertising and related creative services. And so this is our attempt to bring together the leadership of the industry from around the globe to discuss the issues that are facing our business. And also to get excited about the quality of work that we're producing. We have pulled together what I hope you'll agree is a pretty impressive lineup of talent and some pretty compelling content, and I hope that everybody will learn something and go away from this meeting a little bit smarter than they came in. But we're also here to just have a great time and to celebrate what's great about our industry, and I hope we'll take time to do that too. We have 360 registered delegates for this conference. They come from more than 45 countries. While obviously the US is extremely well represented, we have people from almost every major market in Europe. We have people from Russia, we have people from China, we have people from Costa Rica, we have people from Argentina, we have people from Brazil. We have, in short, we have a great Chinese contingent here this year. We have, in short, an incredibly global event, which was the first thing that I really wanted to accomplish when we started this and put it together. We also have, and I should say thank you to all of them before we get started, an incredibly impressive lineup of sponsors, including 12 of the 14 largest public relations firms in the world, as well as leading independent firms from a wide variety of geographic markets, all the way from Brazil to Sweden, from India to Hong Kong, and I want to thank all of them before we get started for their support. The only other couple of things that I need to mention early on are really housekeeping notes. The first is that, like any good event these days, we have a hashtag. The hashtag is PRSummit. Please feel free to tweet prolifically. Last year, we came very close to trending on Twitter. This was yet another thing that Sandy screwed up for us. If people hadn't been hashtagging Hurricane Sandy all over the world, we would have done much better. I'm hoping that this year, with no adverse weather conditions, things will work out a little differently. I should also mention that we are giving away prizes at the end of the summit for the best tweet from the summit and also for the best photograph posted to Twitter. We have Galaxy tabs acquired at great expense that most of you will probably take home and give to your daughters or nieces or nephews or sons, but are still really cool prizes. So I hope you'll get into the spirit of things and make the event just as big a success in social media as it is in the real world. Before we get started with the keynote this morning, I just want to turn the microphone over to Jack Modszalewski. Jack is head of Fleischmann Hillard in North America. Fleischmann is one of our headline sponsors today, and Jack has a few comments about the state of our industry and the opportunity presented to us right now, and he's going to kick things off for us. Hi, Jack.
Morning, Paul. And thank you. Good morning, everyone. And because we're in multilingual Miami, I'll also say buenos dias and bom dia. The baseball legend Yogi Berra once dined alone after a baseball game. He went into a diner and he ordered a pizza. And the waitress brought the pizza and she said, "Shall I cut it in 4 slices or 8? He said, "You better make it 8. I'm really hungry." And I think many of us came to this conference today because we're very hungry for insight and information and perspective on the directions in which our industry is going. So I want to mention 2 themes cited as top challenges that were expressed by agency managers in the profession in a recent World PR study that was conducted by the Holmes Report and by ECO, which is the International Communication Consultancies Organization. The first theme is the rapid rebalancing of the global economy. Now, if you're concerned about the sluggish pace of economic growth in some parts of the world, better times may be ahead of us. But it all depends on your perspective and where you're looking for growth these days. So with these themes, I want to take a few minutes to address how what might be concerns are actually opportunities. And the second theme is our need to embrace information and communication technology as we've never done before. We all talk about big data, and we talk about hiring data scientists, but without software specialists and adequate computing power, we will not strike gold in the mountains of metadata. So we need to bring more technology talent into our profession, into our organizations, people who are comfortable not only with words and images, but also with algorithms. And we need to truly participate in the future development of smarter communications technology, or perhaps risk some disintermediation. Now, 1/4 of the respondents in the Holmes Eco PR World PR report also expressed some anxiety about mastering new digital technologies. They see it as a major challenge. Indeed, it is. And we have to take it on, and I think we are taking it on. Where the late 20th century was about globalization and also about business communications, our new era has been about speed. Speed at which information and communications technology is actually transforming global commerce and socioeconomics at the same time. Those of you who've traveled to Asia, Africa, the Middle East, South America, you've seen how our fellow citizens there have become so much more connected to all of us. And as you travel and explore and witness how communications and information technology platforms are reducing things like cultural gaps, bridging language and even literacy barriers among the peoples of the world, it just shows how connected we really are. It reminds me of the world we once lived in a long time ago, many ages ago, early on when the continents on Earth were all believed to be connected as one landmass that someone later in the 20th century called Pangea. Through the internet, social media, and mobile devices, we are becoming a connected world again, or virtually so. The former communications technology have-nots of the world are now haves, and it is accelerating their progress in economic development in other ways. A recent report by McKinsey, the McKinsey Global Institute, underscores how the wealth of nations and global economic prosperity are shifting very, very fast. The same report sees the number of enterprises doing $1 billion in annual revenue, nearly doubling by 2025, 12 years from now. Billion-dollar companies are forecast to increase in total from 8,000 in the world today to 15,000, with a majority of the new ones based in emerging nations, nations that companies used to casually refer to as ROW, rest of the world. If this occurs, as McKinsey projects, it's an incredible shift and clearly an opportunity for us. It's unprecedented, and probably as unprecedented as anything since the 17th century, when China and India were dominant economies in the world and then watched economic power shift to Europe and the Americas in the centuries that followed. So this rebalancing of which McKinsey speaks portends a shift in global corporate power from the G7 countries to developing and emerging countries in the world that now comprise acronyms like BRIC and the N11 countries. And I know many of you in this room are already working with some of those companies, perhaps for some of those companies, and more of us will in the future. It's all inevitable as we go forward. So in time, I think Paul Holmes may be hosting a future global summit like this in one of the countries that you see on this map shaded in green, places where many of us are doing business now and will in the future. If we can talk technology for just a few moments, sometimes I clearly feel like I'm living, not just listening to that 1993 Moby song called "1,000." It was a song that set a Guinness World Record when at some point in the song it hits a crescendo of 1,000 beats per minute. And if you listen to it a couple of times, I think it can almost induce cardiac arrest. And I listened to it probably for the last time 18 years ago. It might not be 1,000 beats per minute, but the pulse rate of 21st century communications and connecting with people, whether we call them communities or audiences or customers, it requires us to disrupt and challenge what we do and just how we will be doing it. And it's summits like this that are a great place to have these conversations and to leave and act upon those conversations. One quick little technology media story that fascinated me, because in just a week and a half or so, we're going to be marking the 50th anniversary of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. And I don't know if some of you have been to the exhibit at the Newseum in Washington, D.C., but what's really fascinating about what happened 50 years ago is that the very first wire report over the UPI tickers of the assassination of the president didn't happen for 4 minutes. And you can imagine that if it happened today, there'd be a tweet about it probably in 6 seconds or 10 seconds. The other fascinating thing is that maybe some people who are my age remember seeing CBS anchor Walter Cronkite sitting in the newsroom and taking off his glasses and looking at the clock and reporting that the president had died officially at 1 p.m. Central Time. I think what many of us certainly didn't know at the time, and we know now, is the question of why it took Walter Cronkite so long to be actually on the television screen, because for a long time his broadcast was simply, CBS Bulletin and his voiceover. And the reason was that at that time the cameras were in a fixed position in the studio, in the newsroom, and it took them a long time to plug them in and warm them up. So for the longest time, Walter Cronkite could not be on camera announcing one of the biggest news events of our time, and that was 50 years ago. I hope nothing of what I've said in the last few minutes would distress any of you, because I love to quote a physicist who once said, "Why should we worry about the future when in fact you can actually invent it?" I guess just in closing, I'd like to say that this is an excellent time for us all to get together and exchange ideas about how we're all going to pursue the future of communication And hopefully some of those discussions will be about all those places in the world that are emerging, as I said, reported by McKinsey, and how we're going to connect with them through modern and fastly accelerating information and communications technology. Thank you very much. Look forward to talking to all of you a little bit later.